Hello, everyone. Hello. Everyone.
Blow me.
My name is Mike, and this is The Bored Cyborg. Welcome back to yet another episode. Today I figured I'd show you guys another one of my offshoot horror collections, since you guys seem to like the Scream Factory Blu-ray video that I did. Today I'm going to look at my Arrow collection. Now this is mostly horror. I'll just call it genre. There are a few Arrow Academy releases in here. I figure might as well throw them in there. But it's mostly Arrow video, and then a few Arrow Academy releases. I've got, I don't know, looking at it here, 20 to 30 maybe, so not quite as big as my Scream Factory collection, and same thing applies here. I haven't been able to actively collect these as they've been coming out, so a lot of these releases are a little bit older. You'll see a few newer ones here and there. But a lot of these films I have a connection to and I love very much. Also keep in mind that a lot of these are going to be the PAL region ones, and the reason for that is because they were always significantly cheaper than buying the US released ones. I'm talking $10 differences at some points. So you're going to see a lot of PAL releases in here, but that works for me because I have an all-region player. I'd love to know some of your favorite Arrow releases, since there might be some that I have missed along the way that I really should have in my collection. So feel free to leave those down in the comments below. And as usual, we could get a little discussion rolling. So let's jump right into my Arrow collection. Now, these are going to be in somewhat alphabetical order, either ascending or descending. It just depends on my piles here. I like it being more of a hodgepodge anyway, so let's just jump right in. Might as well start with this bad boy. The PAL release of George Romero's Between Night and Dawn. This is such a cool set, one that I had to own. I got this around the time when it came out. And again, I remember this being like $20 cheaper than the US counterpart. Identical box sets, so I figured might as well get the PAL version. Now this has The Crazies, Season of the Witch, and There's Always Vanilla. I haven't seen Season of the Witch and There's Always Vanilla yet. It also comes with this really nice little booklet here. So very cool collection here. Very proud to have this. The reason it's called Between Night and Dawn is because this set features the 3 films that Romero directed between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Living Dead. So from 68 to 78, he did these 3 films. Lesser talked about Romero films. Very cool. Awesome to have this. I might as well get the 2 Arrow Academy releases out of the way. I believe there's 2. This one is Frankenheimer's The Train. I'm a huge John Frankenheimer fan. This is one of his heist films. He did a few in his career, actually. Reindeer Games being the last one, Ronan, and The Train, as far as I could remember. So 3. And yeah, I can't wait to watch this. I've heard excellent things. It's got Burt Lancaster there, so very cool artwork, very cool release by Arrow Academy. Next one up, I sold my DVD months and months ago to fund the Blu-ray version of this. This is a film I haven't seen since I was in middle school, actually. I remember watching this in school, as a matter of fact, and enjoying it, but I was young and stupid, so I didn't really pay too much attention. But Cinema Paradiso. This is basically the only drama, I would say, in this whole collection. As far as I can remember, this does have some fantasy elements of sorts, but an Italian film, Cinema Paradiso. Very, very much so looking forward to checking this one out again, since it's literally been decades and decades. I've heard this film is beautiful. I know I'm going to need a box of tissues, so just a love letter to cinema. I've heard about this movie. Cinema Paradiso. Alright, now we're getting into the horror and the genre stuff. White of the Eye. Weird-ass movie. I gotta be honest with you. I don't remember much about this because I was sort of in and out of consciousness. I remember I was sick when I tried to watch this, and I was like passing out, waking up, passing out, waking up. And it actually lent to it because it's a very dreamlike, trippy, weird-ass, acid-fueled film. Wish I could tell you more about it, but I just don't remember too much. So I have to revisit this at some point. Very cool to have this, though. White of the Eye. Oh, yeah. The Thing. So a lot of people have the Scream Factory release. That's also something I should say. It seems to me that Scream Factory and Arrow have distribution rights to the same films, but in different countries. Like, Arrow releases a lot of movies in the UK that are released here by Scream Factory. So I think this was one of those cases. The Thing, I did own both of these at one point, the Scream Factory and the Arrow. I had to sell my Scream Factory when I was in dire financial need about a year ago, but I'm proud to have this beautiful Arrow release, which I think is a better release. It has pretty much all the same special features. It also comes with a killer poster, a little booklet, so just awesome. I guess I'll show you the DVD. I think it has the same artwork. Yeah, with the Blu-ray. So, very cool set. Very, very, very happy to have this. Obviously, it's one of my favorite films ever. You know, top 5 all day, top 2, top 3, even. Some days it's my favorite film of all time. That is The Thing. The Stuff. Love The Stuff. One of my favorite Larry Cohen films. I actually haven't cracked this Blu-ray yet, because I've actually had this Blu-ray for a few years. So that means I haven't watched this movie in a few years, which hurts my soul a little bit. I do maybe I watched this on streaming or something, because I feel like I've seen it recently. But I love this movie. It's about, you know, a kid who figures out that this stuff, this white shaving cream looking stuff that all these people are eating, the whole country is going crazy for. This kid finds out it has some more sinister backing to it, has a more sinister backing to it. Is it an alien? Where does it come from? What the hell is it doing to our insides? It's one of those paranoia films, and I love this stuff. This one I found at 2nd and Charles in Fayetteville quite a few months ago, actually, when I was up there with a buddy. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Miss Osbourne. I remember getting this for like $7-8 or something like that for an Arrow release. I was like, abso-fucking-lutely. It's a horror film. I honestly don't know much about this film. I think it leans more drama than horror, but it's definitely a horrific drama, I guess you could say. But I have not seen it. I do want to, but, you know, I had to pick this up when I saw it out in the wild, of course. So, Dr. Jekyll and Miss Osbourne. Next up is Deadbeat at Dawn. This is actually my most recent Arrow video pickup. I sold what I actually ran across years ago. I ran across Deadbeat at Dawn at actually the bookstore I used to work at. And then a few months ago, I ran across another copy of that DVD, so I sold both off to fund this wonderful Blu-ray of this great violent exploitation film by Jim Van Bebber. Deadbeat at Dawn is just a gritty, grimy, dingy exploitation movie, pretty trashy at points, but it's actually well done and effective. And it follows Jim Van Bebber, who plays a character named Goose, who's like a gang leader, and his girlfriend is killed, I believe, killed by some of these gang members or something when he tries to leave. That's what it is. He tries to leave the gang, and they don't want that, so then it's just him basically avenging his girlfriend and just trying to stay alive. And it's a really simple setup, but very effective exploitation filmmaking from the 80s here, and you gotta give it up to Jim Van Bebber, who wrote, directed, and starred in this bad boy. So that is Deadbeat at Dawn. This one I got at the bookstore Ed McKay that I used to work at years ago. That is Eaten Alive. This is a Tobe Hooper film. I remember watching this movie years and years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, and I liked it. It had a really cool atmosphere to it, a nice aesthetic, nice lighting, characters that are definitely memorable, like Buck. My name's Buck, and I'm here to fuck, or whatever the hell his line was. Robert Englund, of course. So I remember having fun with it, but it never quite delivered as much as other fans of this film said that it would for me, but I do want to give it another whirl because I do like Tobe Hooper more and more as time goes on. I understand his vision and how unique it was, so I'm looking forward to checking out this mid to late, I want to say 76 this film came out. Looking forward to checking it out once again down the road. That is Eaten Alive. One of the best Fulci films out there, Lucio Fulci's Don't Torture a Duckling. Now this is less ethereal horror and more Giallo. So this is, I mean, it still has some of that Fulci weirdness and some of these shots that are just going to make you so uncomfortable. You know, his usage of slow motion. There's an incredible death scene towards the end of this film that utilizes slow motion, and I can't divulge what it is because it is glorious. When you see it, you'll know what I mean. It is a glorious death scene, and quite hilarious, to be honest. Fulci always blended the supreme surrealness and the otherworldly with these just jarringly abstract images on screen, and images that just make you feel uncomfortable. So, Don't Torture a Duckling has a bunch of those, and it is one of the better Giallo films that I've seen in my day. I am a fan of the genre, but it is very hit or miss for me. This one hits with spades. I love this movie. One of Fulci's best. Don't torture a duckling. Demons. I haven't opened this Blu-ray yet, which drives me crazy, but I've seen this movie 5 times on DVD and on streaming and elsewhere. Love Demons. I think this is Lamberto Bava's masterpiece. You know, this and the second one, which I don't own on Arrow, which I would love to. But Demons, you know, it just takes place in a cinema, and there's a demon zombie-ish sort of outbreak. I mean, they're obviously demons, but they have a lot in common with zombies. And these demons start running rampant in this cinema and start eating people and turning people, and it's just madness. It's a demon/zombie film in a movie theater with a whole bunch of great memorable characters. I think even Michael Suavi, the director, has a role in this movie. It is just a blast from start to finish. And the second one, for me, is almost as fun as the first one, if not equally as fun. It takes place in a high-rise. So I need to get Demons 2, but Demons is awesome. And here's some Cronenberg entering the ring. That is Shivers. Now, this is another one that's on Scream Factory, I believe, but I went with the Arrow release in this case because it was cheaper. That is usually the reason why I go with Arrow, because they're cheaper overseas, especially if you shop on Amazon.uk. Some of these come to like $8 a piece, $7 a piece, or at least they did when I was collecting them heavy a couple years ago. Shivers is awesome. It's really the beginning of his Cronenberg's venereal horror sort of onslaught on cinema that he would introduce over the next couple decades, 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s. Shivers is awesome. What can I say? And we have an action heist film here, another Frankenheimer film. So Arrow Arrow understands Frankenheimer's underrated power in cinema, like I do. Ronan is awesome. Straight up heist film with De Niro and Jean Reno and Sean Bean and a bunch of memorable characters. I love this heist film. So slick, so sleek, so action-packed, and paced so damn well, and I just love this movie. Written to a T. Ronan. Mona Lisa, another one of the more thriller crime films. I've not seen this one, but it's Neil Jordan, who is known for Company of Wolves and a few other films. Mona Lisa stars Bob Hoskins, and I've not seen it, so I can't really speak much on it, but I've heard it's a twisty-turny noir sort of crime thriller from the 80s. Looking forward to checking out Mona Lisa. Ooh, yeah, we got a couple great ones here. Some of my favorite horror films of all time. Definitely the first one is one of my favorites. ReAnimator. Now, I used to own the really nice limited edition of this, the first printing sort of edition, but I had to get rid of that a couple years ago when I was not doing so well financially, when I got laid off. So I've downgraded to this simple, Blu-ray setup here that is a little beat up. So I'd love to replace it one day. With that beautiful version that I did once own that came with like a graphic novel and just, it was glorious. But that is ReAnimator, one of my favorite horror films of all time, horror comedies of all time, from the 80s. Stuart Gordon, ReAnimator's the shit, and so is Bride of ReAnimator. I still need to get, I don't know if Arrow ever released Beyond ReAnimator, but I still need to get that one. Bride of ReAnimator is not quite up to the standard of ReAnimator, but I do think it's an underrated sequel. I think it's damn near close to the original. This one has so many fun effects like claymation and just a blast from start to finish, especially in the third act. And of course you've got Jeffrey Combs hamming it up again. Love Bride of the ReAnimator. Such a good series. Here's some more Giallo goodness, this time Dario Argento. Dario Argento, I've yet to see a Giallo film by him that I dislike. I think they're all great. I think they're some of the best Giallo films ever made, to be quite honest. Deep Red, killer twist, killer set pieces, man. Wes Craven was studying these sorts of films when he was making Scream. I don't know that for a fact. I just feel like he was watching Argento's setups of scenes and how they play out and how they're paced and how they're staged. Argento was a master of the slasher. We all know that. I'm preaching to the choir. But goddamn, Deep Red is just one of the best. Fantastic. This is so cool. I had to pick this up when I saw it years ago, and I remember getting it for like $7-8, shipped. So, from Amazon UK. That is Cronenberg's early films, essentially. We've got Transfer, From the Drain, and and Crimes of the Future. I believe some of those are short films, and Crimes of the Future, I think, I want to say that's a feature film. So, pretty awesome set here. I just couldn't believe this for $8. I was getting some of Cronenberg's lesser-known, earlier works all in one package. That's amazing. Haven't cracked this open, haven't watched any of these, to be quite honest, but when I do a Cronenberg retrospect, I plan on cracking this open, getting through these so that I could talk about his body of work as a whole. So that is this little feature set with stereo Crimes of the Future transfer from the drain. Cronenberg set. That was a mouthful. See ya. Oh, hell yeah. Count Yorga collection. I remember selling my Blu-ray of this. I forget if it was Scream Factory or something. And selling my Blu-ray, funding this, and making a few bucks. So this is both Yorga films. Count Yorga Vampire and Return of Count Yorga. I've actually only seen the first film, but it's 70s vampire goodness at its finest. Robert Quarry plays a very erudite, sort of hip vampire who lures rich socialites into his abode so that he could feast upon them. It's just a fun 70s vampire flick. One of the best 70s vampire flicks, in my opinion. I love that decade of vampire films because they were just so unique. Martin, films like this, just so many unique feeling vampire films of the likes that we just don't see too often these days, because I feel like everything's been done with the genre. But Count Yorga is so cool. Check it out. The City of the Dead, I haven't seen this since I was in my late teens, so it's been over 10 years. I had a DVD of it, which obviously I sold. This is a witchcraft story. I want to say it takes place in a New England town, so I don't remember if this was during the Salem Witch Trials or whatever, but it has Christopher Lee. I want to say this is like a 1960 film, is that right? 1960? Yep, and it's one that I don't remember much about, but I remember the atmosphere. I remember it reminding me of Black Sunday in a lot of ways, Mario Bava's Black Sunday. So definitely want to check out City of the Dead, not City of the Living Dead. That's a different one. That's Fulci. Next up is Children of the Corn, another one I haven't cracked open yet. And Children of the Corn I remember watching when I was very, very young, and it freaked me the hell out. Freaky children in a cornfield. I never looked at cornfields the same way, to be quite honest. I still don't. Whenever I see a cornfield, I envision these kids in them. But this is an early Stephen King adaptation here. Linda Hamilton's in this. Don't remember much about it, but I remember it freaking me out as a kid. And I do have to revisit this, because I think the second time I revisited it was in my teens. So it's been over 15 years, probably. Children of the Corn. Oh, man, next up, I actually haven't seen this film, but this is one of those limited editions I was talking about that I had ReAnimator for and another film coming up, but I had to get rid of. Il gatto a nove code. That is The Cat of Nine Tails, Dario Argento. I'm expecting this to be fantastic. This is part of his Animal Trilogy, I think they call it, with Fly on Grey Velvet, Cat of Nine Tails, and Bird with the Crystal Plumage. I may be messing up those titles a little bit, but Cat of Nine Tails, yet to see it. But you gotta love this. I gotta show it off, right? Got the reversible artwork there, got a poster, and got a book. So pretty freaking cool. One of my favorite horror films from the 60s, that is Jack Hill's Spider Baby. Jack Hill did a bunch of blaxploitation films in the 60s or in the early 70s. I believe he did Foxy Brown, actually. Spider Baby is his sort of horror comedy. Really dark humor. It has an aging Lon Chaney. A great cast with very odd Addams Family-esque characters. In fact, I think this film influenced a lot of movies in the future. Things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the whole dinner scene, actually, I think is inspired by Spider Baby. You can go even further back to Old Dark House, Universal's Old Dark House. I think James Whale did that one, where they have just a kooky family at a dinner table, and they're all spouting off their madness. Spider Baby has a scene like that, but this is just such a great horror comedy. Dark humor stuff from the 60s, so check out Spider Baby. This is an odd release here. This is Phenomena, actually. This has multiple, so look at this. It has 4 different pieces of artwork you could use. How cool is that? From all different countries, I presume. It's got a poster, it's got a booklet. This is a PAL version, again, because it was much cheaper. So, pretty cool. Phenomena. when insects attack. It's this girl who has a sort of psychic abilities, but they also intertwine with etymology and just the insect world in a really interesting way. It is a Argento Giallo sort of slasher film in a lot of ways, but it has a lot more going for it. Phenomena is one that I have to revisit. Very influential film. Jennifer Connelly, very young in this one of her first roles. Love Phenomena, also known as Creepers. Oh boy. So I have something to admit. This last October I put into place a challenge week for myself, and shit hit the fan and I couldn't finish it. So a lot of you will be disappointed to know that I still haven't watched Necromantic 1 or 2. I'm still afraid to watch Necromantic 1 and or 2. One of these days. It's a necrophilia horror film from Germany. So, one day. This is so cool. This is why I love Arrow. They put out so many unique films that just are on the brink of being forgotten. JDs Revenge. This is one of the few... this is one of the few blaxploitation horror flicks that isn't goofy or a parody or trying to make fun of the genre. This is a straight-up African-American horror film. I love JD's Revenge. Essentially, a young man gets possessed by the spirit of a 40s gangster. And that's really all I need to tell you. It's a possession story at its core, but it is so African-American in nature, and there's really nothing like it. I've never seen a possession film like this, and it bleeds with culture and deeper meanings, and I love JD's Revenge. Check it out. Another blaxploitation film here that Arrow put out, that is Sheba Baby. I've yet to see Sheba Baby. This is Pam Grier in a William Girdler film, and William Girdler is one of my, I can't really say favorite directors, but he's one of my favorite unknown directors. How about we say that? He did one of my favorite flicks, The Manitou. He did Day of the Animals, Grizzly, films like that. He was on the brink of becoming a huge director, in my opinion, but he died, I think, before he was 30 or very, very young, scouting, maybe mid-30s, early 30s, very, very young scouting for his newest film. He was in a helicopter, the helicopter went down, he passed away, and it was gonna be this big epic. Anyway, Sheba Baby was his foray into the blaxploitation genre. Still haven't seen it. Sheba Baby. Tiki, Ricardo Freda and Mario Bava's masterpiece. Maybe not masterpiece, but close to it. Tiki, the immortal monster, is everything that the Blob wishes it could be. Archaeologists find this Mayan temple. They disturb this stagnant little body of water. It's like like a sink almost. They disturb this water, and shit hits the fan. It unleashes this blob-like ancient creature, and it just starts wreaking havoc. It is so phenomenal. Bava does the effects in this, as he did for most of his films. I think this is, effects-wise, comparable to The Blob. Movie-wise, blows The Blob out of the water. Tiki is awesome. Next up, Brain Damage. My favorite Frank Henenlotter film. I love this movie. It's just a dingy New York allegory about drugs and not to take them or not to abuse them is really the message here. And basically this little alien creature, Aylmer, attaches himself to the neck of our main character and induces him with little bits of drugs, an acid-like hallucinogen, every time Aylmer is supplied with fresh human brains. So, fresh human brains in exchange for an acid trip is what happens to our main character, and he gets addicted to it. He does it over and over again. He gets addicted to the violence and the subsequent euphoria, and it's just a wonderful allegory about drugs. I love Brain Damage. 80s to the core. It is so awesome. Check it out. Night Riders. I actually haven't seen this. Some tout this as an epic. Romero's action-adventure epic. I don't know much about this, but it follows like a group or a troupe of characters who are into like Renaissance fair stuff and like dressing up in medieval armor and jousting and stuff like that. I don't know. It seems to be like a weird concept, but I can't wait to check it out. I mean, it is George Romero after all, so one of these days I'll get around to checking this one out. That is Night Riders. Gotta love all the artwork on every single one of these releases, by the way. I mean, most of it is newly commissioned, but they usually have... Yeah, see? the original artwork, reversible, which is just such a respectable thing to do. So, pretty awesome. Oh my god. Zardoz. I still haven't seen this on Blu-ray because I sold my DVD a while ago to fund this. Zardoz is one of the weirdest fucking movies I've ever seen. John Boorman, Sean Connery in like a one-piece leotard Speedo thing that is very disturbing, and just one of the weirdest films I've ever seen. Zardoz. I don't know what else to say about it without getting into the madness that is the narrative story and structure of this movie. It's so bizarre. It's a sci-fi film. Zardoz. Inferno. Part of the middle, I should say, of the Three Mothers trilogy. Argento's Three Mothers trilogy with Suspiria, Inferno, and Mother of Tears. Inferno I haven't seen on Blu-ray yet, but goddamn, I love this movie. I mean, I love almost every Argento film that I've seen from the 70s and 80s. This is no exception. It's fantastic. Inferno. Hellraiser. Yes, Hellraiser Trilogy, as a matter of fact, from overseas. So this has Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3. I love the first 3 Hellraiser movies. To be honest, they're the only 3 that I've seen. I haven't gone past this point yet because I'm nervous. So I do own them all, mostly on Blu-ray. But Hellraiser, the original classic, directed by Clive Barker and written by, just a classic film. The effects hold up remarkably well. The story is just drenched in atmosphere. The second one, they go to hell, and I really love the aesthetic there, and more of the crazy special effects. They get even crazier in the second one. And then Hell on Earth is just a fun, almost, kind of like a super villain romp. I know it's got these great shots of like the Cenobites walking down a dimly lit alleyway, or street, I should say. And it's just got some really cool visuals, but it's not quite as dark or violent and memorable as the first 2. So that is the Hellraiser trilogy here. Oh man, talk about Giallo. This was one of the films that started it all in the early 60s. Mario Bava, one of the masters of the genre. That is Blood and Black Lace, the film that I do like. I didn't love it the first time around. I thought it was a little bit slow in plotting. But I think going into it a second time, knowing how important this film was to the genre of slashers and Giallo films, I think I'll have more of an appreciation for it. It's going to be more simplistic. It was the first of its kind, you know? But that's not to say that it doesn't look great. Bava always shoots a hell of a picture. He was always his own cinematography and effects guy, like I had mentioned. So Bava, one of my favorite directors, really like Blood and Black Lace, but I'm looking forward to giving it another shot. Oh man, this was one of the films that I had to sell my limited edition for. That was just glorious. But I'm grateful to own this in some capacity. One of my favorite 80s horror films ever made. I love Society. It's just a perfect allegory about the rich eating the poor, the social elites looking down on the impoverished and feeding off of them, quite literally. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's just a simple allegory that is so well told and effective. And you could tell this kind of story over and over again as long as you tell it in a new, fresh way and give us something exciting. And this, we get something very exciting in the effects, but done by Screaming Mad George. Society is a master class of horror effects work. Check out Society. It's perfect. Black Cat. This is actually Fulcio's version of the Poe story, The Black Cat. So I'm expecting it to be nothing like the Poe story, The Black Cat, and totally like something Fulci would come up with. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be surreal. It's going to be weird and strange and uncanny, like all of Fulci's films are for me. So looking forward to checking out The Black Cat. Battle Royale. Battle Royale. This is the Japanese film, Battle Royale, of course, done by Kinji Fukasaku. Yes. Whew. I don't know how I got that. Kinji Fukasaku directed this one. Kinji Fukasaku was a big director in the 70s, the new wave of Japanese film in the 70s, late 60s, and onward. But one of his last great movies was Battle Royale. I really like this movie. Definitely better than The Hunger Games. I think The Hunger Games kind of ripped this off in a lot of ways, to be quite honest. There are too many parallels for it to be a coincidence. But Battle Royale is not for teenagers or young adults. It is for adults, and it's about kids killing themselves or killing each other on an island in sort of a sadistic competition that's taking place. It's awesome. Battle Royale. This is a Bava film that I actually haven't seen, or opened for that matter. That is The Girl Who Knew Too Much. I haven't seen The Girl Who Knew Too Much, and I know nothing about it. I believe it's a Giallo, though. Girl Who Knew Too Much. Another Argento Giallo film that I've yet to see or open. This is another one I owned in, oh my god, long hair, in limited edition fashion, but had to sell off. I know, it breaks my heart too. The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. I've yet to see this one, but I'm expecting it to be fantastic. Was this the earliest of the three? I think it was the first in the trilogy. The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Four Flies on Grey Velvet, that's the name of it. And then Cat o' Nine Tails. I forget the order of them, but I think this one was first. Either way, Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Looking forward to checking it out at some point. And last but certainly not least, Hell Comes to Frogtown. What a weird post-apocalyptic movie about frogmen and feminism and just strange concepts in this movie. It follows Sam Hell, played by Roddy Piper. I think my second favorite Roddy Piper film. Essentially, the world is run by females in this world. And Sam Hell is a commodity because he has a working penis. This takes place in a world where there are no fertile men, and so Sam Hell's treated as a sort of commodity. So it's an interesting feministic flip on a lot of social ideologies, I'll say, without getting too into it. And I think George Miller watched this, or at least saw this movie, and subconsciously used some of the ideas, or maybe he pulled them out of the zeitgeist or something, for his film Fury Road. It has a lot of similar parallels. You'll know what I mean when you see it. I wrote a review for this, actually. I believe it's on Letterboxd, so feel free to check it out. I think I put it up there. And I compared it to Fury Road in a lot of ways, and I'm convinced Miller saw this film and was inspired with some of the ideas that this portrays. Not a perfect film, but I do like it quite a bit. It's just so weird. I gotta admit, it's paced a little off, but it's a weird fucking movie with frog people, some pretty cool costumes. That is Hell Comes to Frogtown. I just want to thank you guys for checking out my Arrow video collection. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'd love to know what your favorite Arrow video release is, either one that I have and showed off today or one that you own that I don't have. I'm really excited to get exposed to some Arrow releases that I didn't know were out there, that I didn't know existed, that I didn't know I needed. So feel free to leave those down in the comments below and we'll get a little discussion rolling. I'm cool. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos like it, feel free to hit the subscribe button, as well as the little bell for notifications. Anyway, guys, I will see you next time. Bored Cyborg, out. Peace. Hee 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 hee.